The Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, or OFCCP, enforces important regulations to ensure employers' hiring practices are fair and non-discriminatory. But what if your hiring practices were audited? Could you confidently interpret what your applicant data reveals? And most importantly, would you pass the audit? Let's take a look at why compliance checks of your hiring practices matter, what data you need to focus on, and the best practices for maintaining OFCCP audit readiness. First and foremost, the OFCCP and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, mandate that companies avoid discriminatory practices against protected classes. Failure to comply can lead to serious consequences, including legal action, hefty fines, and lasting harm to your company's reputation. Applicant record keeping is one of the top issues during an OFCCP audit. Some proactive strategies you can utilize to ensure your applicant data is audit-proof include documenting every stage of your applicant process, consistently reviewing applicant pools for diversity, and regularly evaluating promotion processes. These steps will help you move from a reactive stance, where you're only preparing when an audit is imminent, to a proactive one where you're always prepared. Understanding adverse impact and its possible causes is essential. If adverse impact is present, you'll want to delve into what might be causing it and work on mitigating it. One key focus of an OFCCP audit is selection rate comparisons between those who applied against those who were selected for an external hire. This means that every hire within the audit period must have a documented applicant pool, making accurate data collection and analysis crucial. However, applicant data can be challenging to manage, as it is often stored separately from employee data, with multiple individuals handling it, and can be vulnerable to errors. Training recruiters, hiring managers, and anyone involved in the hiring process is critical to maintaining data integrity. These individuals must also understand the OFCCP's definition of an Internet applicant. To review, an Internet applicant is someone who submits an expression of interest in employment through the Internet or other related electronic data technologies. They're also an individual you as the contractor consider for employment in a particular position, meaning you reviewed their application or resume. As an Internet applicant, the individual's expression of interest indicates that they possess the minimum qualifications for the position. The minimum qualifications must be listed in the job description or posting. Finally, at no point in the selection process prior to receiving an offer of employment will the individual have removed themselves from further consideration or otherwise indicated they're no longer interested in the position. Note that this includes both passive and active withdrawal. Examples of passive withdrawal include being a no-show to an interview or not returning phone calls. An active withdrawal may involve the individual saying they're no longer interested, that the position requires too much travel, not enough pay, or that they cannot work shifts. The best way to know whether or not a candidate meets the Internet applicant definition and should be included in your analysis is by referencing their assigned disposition. For reference, a disposition is a succinct description of what happens to applicants who apply for a position and captures the most important information about their journey through the hiring process. A good model for covering all bases in disposition terms is to describe three key areas: the step, or the stage in the hiring process that an applicant has made it to, such as minimum qualification screen or interview; the status, the results from the last step an applicant made it to, such as they were rejected or hired; and the reason, or the status of an applicant's last step in the process, such as rejected due to not meeting minimum qualifications. Timely dispositioning is so important, as it is much harder to recall what happened weeks or even months after the fact. In addition to ensuring that applicants are captured correctly in your applicant tracking system, you must verify that applicants are pulled correctly out of the system. Since you only want to include applicants who were considered as part of a particular hire, you may want to think about pulling your data by requisition rather than by applied date. For example, if the time period for those hired is January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, you should not just be pulling those who applied from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, since anyone who applied before that time would not be included. So, by reviewing who was hired in the requisition that they were hired on, you can then go and pull anyone who applied on that same requisition. When pulling applicant data, consider the following. Ensure there's an applicant record for every hire. Missing records could indicate a rehire or a candidate sourced from an external firm. Confirm each hire disposition aligns with the corresponding record in your HRIS. If not, they could be a future hire or inaccurately dispositioned. Verify all dispositions to ensure they meet the Internet applicant definition. And ensure requisitions are associated with a single job title, as multiple job titles can complicate aligning and organizing data accurately. Working with third-party recruiting firms requires oversight too. Make sure they're aligned with your OFCCP obligations, including gathering self-IDs, tracking applicant data, and maintaining accurate records. In the event of an audit, you'll submit counts of applicants and hires. The OFCCP will conduct its own impact ratio analysis, assessing the selection rates among different groups such as male versus female or minority versus non-minority applicants. This process can expose adverse impact, which signals potential biases favoring one group over another. To avoid surprises during an audit, it's wise to analyze your data for adverse impact in advance. Proper dispositioning and maintaining accurate applicant data reduces the risk of misinterpretation and saves you from having to conduct extensive data cleanup down the road. If adverse impact is identified, clean up your data and review your hiring processes. Some questions to ask include: are all hires accurately represented? Are applicant pools correctly identified? Have applicant dispositions been verified? Are the jobs in the correct plan and job group? And are applicants and hires truly external? Also, conduct a hiring steps analysis to see where certain groups may be excluded from your process. For example, high-level positions may have different recruitment steps than entry-level roles, and system constraints may inadvertently filter out candidates. Understanding where these barriers exist allow you to refine your processes proactively, ensuring they align with your diversity and compliance goals. What are some best practices or key takeaways that ensure your organization's applicant data passes an OFCCP audit? Ensure that you have a compliant applicant tracking process and system in place. Ensure proper dispositioning of applicants so only relevant candidates are analyzed. Regularly review applicant to hire data for adverse impact, addressing any issues before submission to the OFCCP. Conduct thorough impact ratio and steps analyses, eliminating statistically significant disparities where possible. Train all team members involved in hiring on compliance obligations so they understand their role in maintaining your organization's federal contracts. And document your hiring processes comprehensively, as an audit may require detailed procedural explanations. With these practices in place, your organization will be prepared to demonstrate fair hiring practices, reduce adverse impact, and confidently face any OFCCP audit. Discover how Affirmity can help you prepare and optimize your affirmative action program. Check out our affirmative action planning software and services on our website, or contact us for more information.